Welcome, everybody, to Unique Forex's radio show. We're going to be doing the forecast for this week. We're also going to talk about things that happened last week. So let's get into it. Last week, one of the big stories was the Bank of Japan, or the country Japan, second quarter GDP missed forecast, and they were unchanged from the first quarter. Business spending and exports slowed in that country. Here you've got a country with negative interest rates and zero-bound rates, and they still can't create a growing economy. Absolutely amazing to see. What we're seeing is unprecedented going around the world. We also had the Fed's Williams, one of the Fed governors, Williams. He actually calling for the Fed to rethink their policy, their fiscal policy. What is he saying? He's basically almost throwing in the towel. We've been saying it now for over 2 years. Zero-bound rates, QE, negative rates don't create economic activity the way they were supposed to. Therefore, they do not create jobs. And we did a show dedicated just to that and the reason why. And here we got the first Federal Reserve governor actually admitting that it's not working. To me, something great to see. Okay, let's get to housing starts. Came in for the month, actually beat estimates, but those estimates were lowered. So how good that is, I really can't say. You like to see them beat estimates that were actually rising, right? But at least it did beat, so that was somewhat of a good sign. This is here in the States. CPI, which is a measure of inflation, came in as expected, but if you look at core CPI, which backs out food and energy, that missed estimates. So again, another economy with zero-bound rates, because that's basically what we have, zero-bound rates, that can't create inflation, can't create economic activity, and therefore can't create jobs. What else happened last week? Lord Rothschild. He is saying, it's amazing, he came out and he said, what we're seeing with the central banks and the Fed is the greatest experiment in monetary policy in the history of the world. And he's turning bearish in his portfolio. So it's just another one of the huge money managers out there that's turning bearish. Also, who was the guy? David Tepper. He turned bearish last week, as their filing showed. Not sounding good there at all. Let's see. Last week, another one I wanted to point out, Cisco System. It's just the reason why I wanted to point it out, it's a global economic bellwether. They're laying off 20% of their workforce around the world. Again, we have the President of the United States, we've got the Federal Reserve saying that jobs are growing, the economy is stable and growing, and you have all these other people, these other countries saying the complete opposite, and now Cisco Systems employs thousands and thousands, who knows how many people, hundreds of thousands of people, laying off 20% of their workforce. Absolutely incredible. The Fed's Bullard, he said central banks generally rethinking monetary policy. There's another Fed, this came out on, I believe, Thursday, another Federal Reserve governor saying that central banks are generally rethinking monetary policy, basically admitting QE, zero-bound rates, aren't working. Again, we've been saying it for years. We'll take some applause for that. We've been so ahead of the curve. Let's see. Then the big news from last week was the Fed minutes. Basically said officials were split in the July meeting on whether to raise rates or not. Some members wanted to wait for more inflation, confidence, and more economic data. And that economic data came out that was just horrible. Fed officials saw low inflation risks from continued job gains. Again, they even actually said that they favor looking at the jobs number rather than the GDP number. Well, it's obvious they can manipulate the jobs number a lot easier than they can manipulate the GDP numbers. Also from last week, Goldman Sachs came out. I like to watch what Goldman Sachs says just because they're Goldman Sachs, right? They said the current PE, price to earnings expansion cycle, is now one of the largest in history. Since September of 2011, forward PE has grown 75%. This expansion has only been surpassed twice. once in 1976, and also, since 1976. The biggest one was 115%, which went from 1994 to 1999, which ended in the tech bubble. And the second largest was from 1984 to 1987, which ended with the Black Monday collapse of 22% in one day. So Goldman Sachs, and they've officially turned bearish. What else? Carl Icahn was out with some statements last week. He was saying GDP is weak, and you could ask why, or he gives his opinion why. Middle-class workers don't have good jobs. Unemployment numbers are not accurate. This is all things that Carl Icahn was saying, and jobs aren't paying well. So middle class was the backbone of our economy, especially from the 50s on. Created a lot of the middle-income type people, and our economy is just not producing those type of jobs anymore. And here you've got Carl Icahn saying exactly what we've been saying. So that was really, let's see, Australia came out with their unemployment numbers. The headline sounded great, that they actually created more jobs than expected, until you really read into it. It said full-time jobs declined 45,000, and part-time jobs saw a massive increase of 71,000, the third largest on record in Australia. So again, another country with zero-bound rates that just can't create jobs. What else? Last Thursday, initial jobless claims a little bit better than expected. No big deal because it's a weekly number, so it doesn't carry much weight. Philly Fed came in as expected, which actually looked good until, again, you read some of the report. And in the report, it said the percentage reporting decreases employment was 25%. It was significantly higher than those reporting an increased employment, which was only 5% of the businesses that fall under the Philly Fed. So not sounding too well there. And what else? I believe that was really... Oh, another big money manager, Paul Tudor Jones. He emerged last week as a mega bear. In the last quarter, he increased the short positions by 400%. That's right, you heard me right. 400%. Absolutely insane. Take some applause there for Paul Tudor Jones. Okay, let's look forward for this week. Economic calendar-wise, really the biggest thing is the Jackson Hole, Wyoming Symposium, which will have Janet Yellen will be speaking there. A lot of other big-time CEOs, hedge fund managers, maybe even some other central bankers from the world will be there. But all eyes and ears are going to be on her speech. That starts, I believe, Wednesday. Let me see. Yes, it kicks off Wednesday. I think she's speaking on... I don't know when she's speaking, actually. If she's speaking Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. But it will be the remainder of that week. That's really the biggest event. We do have the Bank of Japan's Kuroda giving a speech on Tuesday morning in Japan, or Tuesday night here in the United States. As far as economic releases, the calendar is pretty light for the week. Nothing too big there at all. Actually, I think I just saw Janet Yellen might actually be speaking on Saturday. That's insane that she would be speaking on Saturday when markets are closed. I don't know if that calendar is correct, but I guess we're going to find out as the week goes on. As far as some research that we were looking over from Danks Bank, again, it says next week in the U.S. we expect the focus really to be on Jackson Hole Economic Policy Symposium, where Janet Yellen is due to speak. Other big thing there is the PMI that they talk about, but it's nothing really huge on the economic calendar at all. Really, that's really about it as far as the upcoming week. You know, we'll have to look at some charts that changes from day to day, so we'll see what happens there, and see if we get any really good trades. We had some solid trades last week. We actually had a solid trade Thursday night, which we covered Friday morning, which was a correlation trade. So if you follow us on the social media, you know we like to do some swing trades, some scalp trades, and really specialize in our correlation trades, which have been treating us very well as of late. Take a little applause for that. Gotta have the applause for the correlation. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Gonna wrap it up. Have a great week trading. Good luck trading, and we'll be back next week.